Hello everyone, welcome back again to another video from my YouTube channel. Dear friends, in our previous video, we learned the gestation period. We have seen the pregnancy or embryonic development in case of human beings in the last video. In this video, we're going to understand one more very important concept of human reproduction, that is parturition. Parturition means during pregnancy the fetus is fully developed. That fetus now it is ready to come out from the womb of the mother. That delivering of a fully formed fetus, it is called as parturition. Parturition is a biological term. Parturition. Generally, parturition is called as a delivery process, or it is also called as the process of childbirth. The process of childbirth. This definition of parturition, it's a layman's definition. But the scientific definition of parturition is quite different from this generalized definition. Let us standardize the definition of the word parturition. Parturition means the process of expulsion. The process of expulsion of fully formed fetus. The process of expulsion of fully formed fetus from the uterus. From the uterus through the vagina. Through the vagina after completing the gestation period. Let us understand what do you mean by this. Gestation period. What do you mean by the parturition? It is a process of expulsion. Expulsion means delivering out. It's a process of expulsion, or it's a process of delivering out the fully formed fetus. That means the completely developed fetus from the uterus, because the fetus is getting developed inside the uterus for 9 months. That is why it is from the uterus through the birth canal, and that birth canal is called as vagina. If the baby is fully developed inside the womb of the mother, that fully formed baby has to be delivered out through the birth canal or through the vagina after completing the gestation period. What do you mean by gestation period? Gestation period means pregnancy. Gestation period means pregnancy. And we know in case of human beings, the pregnancy period is for 9 months. 9 months or approximately 280 days. 280 days of pregnancy period. During this 9 months of pregnancy, or in 280 days, the zygote is getting developed into a fully formed fetus. After completing this 9 months of pregnancy, the baby has to be expelled out. The baby has to be delivered. In some complicated situations, in some cases, if the fetus is not fully developed, if the fetus is not fully developed and this partially developed. Can we call this as partially developed? Because it has not fully developed. This partially developed fetus expelled out in between the pregnancy. In between the pregnancy. In these two situations, in these two cases, what are the two different scenarios? The fetus is partially developed and the fetus is expelled in between the pregnancy. That means in between the 9 months. For example, some babies get expelled out in the 5th month. Some babies get expelled out in the 7th month. Some babies get expelled out in the 6th month, 5th month. That means in between the pregnancy means this baby has not completed the entire 9 months of pregnancy. 9 months are not completed and the fetus is not fully formed. If it gets expelled out in such a situation, it is called as abortion. It is called as abortion. Now, what is the definition of abortion? Abortion means the process of expulsion of partially developed fetus in between the pregnancy. It is called as abortion. Abortion is completely different from the pregnancy. How it is different? Abortion is completely different from parturition. How it is different from parturition? In parturition, there is an expulsion of a fully formed fetus after completing the 9 months of pregnancy. But in abortion, the fetus is partially developed, not completely developed, and it has not completed the 9 months of pregnancy. That is abortion. Let us understand the parturition in detail. Parturition is a neuroendocrine mechanism. Parturition is a neuroendocrine mechanism. Why parturition is called as neuroendocrine mechanism? As we have seen the definition of the parturition is very complicated process. Hence, nervous system as well as the glands, they are playing a significant role in the parturition process. They are playing a very important role in the process of parturition, in the process of baby delivering. Nervous system is also involved. Nerves, signals, impulses, they are also involved, as well as the glands are involved. That means the hormonal activity is responsible for parturition. Let us understand the mechanism of the parturition in detail. Parturition takes place when the pregnancy period is completed. At the completion of pregnancy. Completion of pregnancy or gestation. Once the pregnancy period is completed, then two very important structures, they play a very important role after completing the pregnancy. The first structure is fully developed fetus. The fetus is fully developed, and this fully developed fetus want to come out from the womb of the mother. And the second thing is placenta. Fully developed fetus and the placenta, they together sends a signal. They send a signal to the uterus. Who sends a signal to the uterus? Fully developed fetus as well as placenta. They send a signal to the uterus, and this uterus get contracted. This uterus get contracted. That means this signal causes mild uterine contractions. Mild uterine contractions. Contractions starts in the uterus after receiving the signals from the fetus as well as from the placenta. This mild uterine contractions, they are technically called as fetal ejection. Fetal ejection reflex. Fetal ejection reflex. This fetal ejection reflex word, it is very important for competitive exams as well as for board exams for 1 marks. What are the fetal ejection reflexes? They are the mild uterine contractions. By the uterus, it is called as fetal ejection reflex. This fetal ejection reflex, it stimulates. Fetal ejection reflex, it stimulate the pituitary gland. Stimulate pituitary. It stimulates the pituitary. On one hand, the fetal ejection reflex is stimulating the pituitary. On the other hand, this same fetal ejection reflex, it is also stimulating. It is also stimulating the placenta. It is also stimulating the placenta. Fetal ejection reflex stimulates the pituitary, and at the same time the fetal ejection reflex also stimulates the placenta. As a result of stimulation given by the fetal ejection reflex to the pituitary gland produces a hormone called as oxytocin. It produces a hormone called as oxytocin hormone. And this hormone, it is also called as birth hormone. It is also called as birth hormone. This hormone gets secreted in the maternal body. In the mother's body, this hormone gets secreted. Oxytocin is secreted by the pituitary after getting stimulated by the fetal ejection reflex. Simultaneously, this placenta is also got stimulated by the fetal ejection reflex. As a result of that, one more hormone gets secreted here, that is relaxin. Relaxin is secreted. This relaxin is secreted by the placenta, whereas oxytocin is secreted by the pituitary gland. But the stimulation is same. But the stimulating agent, but the stimulating factor is same, that is fetal ejection reflex. This oxytocin, the oxytocin level in the female body, it causes strong uterine contraction now. Initially, the uterine contractions are mild. Now, these mild uterine contractions, they become wild. Stronger uterine contractions. Strong uterine contractions. Strong uterine contractions are created by the oxytocin. Oxytocin creates the strong uterine contractions. These strong uterine contractions, they are called as labor pains. They are called as labor pains. ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಪ್ರಸವ ಪೂರ್ವ ವೇದನೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಪ್ರಸವ ಪೂರ್ವ ವೇದನೆ. They are the strong uterine contractions. Who causes the uterine to create a strong contraction? It is oxytocin. Simultaneously, this relaxin, which is secreted by the placenta, It causes widening of cervix. We have studied the female reproductive system in our previous videos, where we have seen there is a narrow cervical canal, a very narrow kind of cervical canal. That narrow cervical canal become wide now. It is because of relaxin hormone secreted by the placenta. These two actions, on one hand, oxytocin is creating a strong uterine contraction. On the other hand, relaxin is relaxing the cervix. Relaxin is widening the cervix. These two actions, they cause or they push the baby. They push the baby in vagina. They push the baby in the vagina due to the activity of relaxin as well as due to the activity of oxytocin. When the baby is pushed in the vagina, that leads to the parturition. That leads to the delivering of the baby. When the baby get delivered out through the vagina, suddenly the placenta is lost. Placenta is lost. Why there is a loss of placenta? Because placenta is a nourishing tissue that nourishes the developing fetus inside the womb of the mother. Now the baby is no more inside the womb of the mother. It has delivered out. When the baby is delivered out, there is no need of placenta now. It has lost. And the second thing is umbilical cord. Umbilical cord is cut by the doctors. Doctors, they surgically remove the umbilical cord. They simply cut the umbilical cord with the help of sterilized scissors. They cut the umbilical cord, doctor cut the umbilical cord, and the placenta is lost because there is no need of placenta now. Now this leads to the parturition. This is the complete mechanism of parturition, my dear friends. Parturition simply means the childbirth. Generally, during parturition, the head of the baby appears first in the vagina. The baby is coming out through the vagina with its head. Head comes out first. Head appears first during parturition. Here I am writing the points, some important facts. Head appears first in parturition. If the head appears first in parturition, such birth, it is called as normal birth. Normal birth. Sometimes in some cases, some exceptional cases, buttocks may appear first. Buttocks appear first in the parturition. Such type of birth, it is called as breech birth. Breech birth. What is breech birth? If during parturition the buttocks they appear first, then it is called as breech birth. If the head appears first, it is called as normal birth. This is the normal situation where the head appears first during the parturition. As I told earlier, parturition is a very complicated process. Sometimes the mother's body, the mother's pituitary gland fail to secrete the oxytocin during parturition. It's become a very complicated situation now. If the oxytocin is not secreted, the strong uterine contractions are not created. In some exceptional cases, the mother's placenta fail to secrete the relaxin. Now there is no widening of the cervix. Sometimes the umbilical cord get wrapped around the baby. The baby is unable to move. The baby is unable to push in the vaginal canal. There may be any kind of complication during the parturition. If such cases are there, the fully formed fetus, it can be removed, it can be delivered by a surgical method. That surgical method is called as cesarean. That surgical method, it is called as, here I am writing that, surgical expulsion of baby. Surgical expulsion of baby in complications, in complicated situations. In complications, it is called as cesarean. Cesarean, or it is also called as C-section. C-section, cesarean or C-section. This cesarean or C-section is practiced only in complicated situations. This is the complete concept of parturition. If you have any doubts, please ask me in the comment box. If you like this video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for your future videos. Now the baby is out. What is the next step? That newly born baby or the neonatal baby has to get nourished by the mammary glands under the heading. We'll study that concept under the heading lactation. Thank you so much.